Focused and fearless, here's everything you need to know this rush hour of September 10, Tuesday. I'm Riza Diaz. Kicking off today's rush with several areas in Luzon declaring class suspensions due to bad weather. Classes in all levels are suspended today in the entire province of Bataan. Same goes for Masinloc, Olongapo City, and Subic, Zambales. Now, likewise for the towns of Cabiling, Concepcion, Paniki, Interlac also have no classes in all levels. But Tarlac City only declared class suspensions in preschool to senior high. Now, over in Pampanga, classes in all levels are suspended in Guagua. Classes in preschool to senior high are suspended in Florida Blanca, while only preschool to elementary classes are suspended in Angeles City. Now, in Pangasinan, localized suspensions are in effect in Binalonan. Now, this means classes may be suspended upon the discretion of school administrators and upon the advice of the local Disaster and Risk Reduction Management Office. Classes in preschool to high school are suspended in Alcala, San Nicolas, and Santo Tomas, while the rest of the province classes are suspended in all levels. Now, the southwest monsoon or habagat is bringing heavy rain over some parts of Luzon, but that's not all. Pag-asa warns that we may need to brace for another tropical cyclone this week. To give us the update on this, we have with us on the line Benny Stareja from the Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. Benny, good morning.
Good morning, Riza, and to all the viewers.
Benny, we've been experiencing rain overnight, but what is the weather looking like today?
For today, we will still experience southwest monsoon or habagat, but mostly over Luzon. And for the next 24 hours, Cordillera and Central Luzon will experience cloudy skies with light to moderate and occasionally heavy rains, which may cause flash floods or landslides. Over here in Metro Manila, as well as Ilocos Region, Calabar Zone, and Cagayan Valley, there will be cloudy skies as well, with scattered rains and thunderstorms, and mostly in the afternoon, and this may also cause flash floods or landslides. While for the rest of the country, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with some localized thunderstorms.
Benny, update us more on these two low-pressure areas that the Pag-asa spotted.
The first one is a low-pressure area over the West Philippine Sea. It was last located at 115 kilometers west of Lawag, Ilocos Norte, and it will not become a tropical cyclone. On the other hand, the low-pressure area over the Pacific Ocean was last located at 1,920 kilometers east of Veracatanduanes, and it is expected to enter our Philippine area of responsibility tomorrow, and at the same time, it may become a tropical depression by then, and it will be named Marilyn.
Other than those two LPAs, are there other weather disturbances?
We have other weather disturbances over here in Japan area, but it's not expected to affect any parts of the country. So we're looking into these two weather disturbances, especially the low-pressure area east of the country.
Okay, thank you. That was Pag-asa weather forecaster Benny Stareja. Now, heavy rainpour is also to blame why a supposed welcome ceremony for Singaporean President Halima Yacob had to be transferred inside Malacanang. Yacob, who is in Manila for a 5-day official visit, was greeted by Duterte and his cabinet on Monday at the Malacanang Reception Hall. Now, the ceremony, though, was originally scheduled at the Kalayaan grounds. Other outdoor activities also had to be canceled, but the two leaders pushed through with their bilateral talks. They also issued a joint statement in the celebration of the Philippines and Singapore's 50 years of diplomatic relations. Duterte and Yacob also signed 8 bilateral agreements, particularly on the areas of education, agriculture, infrastructure, and data privacy protection, among others. Now, aside from trade relations, defense and military cooperation were also discussed during the meeting. Duterte also talked about what he calls considerable gains in pushing for peace in Mindanao through the establishment of the Bangsamoro region.
President Jacob and I committed to further intensify trade and investment links. With the agreement signed today, with the first of our eager steps toward the next half of century of our natural, mutual, reinforcing and beneficial partnership.
A 2015 DOJ orders requires the Justice Secretary to oversee the release of any convict serving a life sentence. But in the case of fired Bucor Chief Aldon, he says he doesn't know about it. Ricky Fernandez will tell us more.
Acts Bureau of Corrections Chief Nicanor Faeldon said he was unaware of a Justice Department order requiring the approval of the Secretary before releasing convicts with life terms. Faeldon said he only learned about Department Order 953 when the Senate hearing on the botched release of ex-Calauan Mayor Antonio Sanchez began.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor. After the first hearing, sir, when it was pointed out here, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I read it, sir. But prior to that, it was just recent when the Secretary informed me about the department order.
Faeldon nevertheless acknowledged his fault. The order took effect on November 26, 2015, during the stint of Supreme Court Associate Justice Benjamin Caguiwa as Justice Secretary. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara earlier said his approval had never been sought since he assumed his post in April this year. Guevara also acknowledged his shortcoming.
To be very, very candid and truthful about the matter, Mr. Chair.
I expect no less.
Yes. We ourselves are not completely aware about that Department Order 953 because that was issued way back in 2015.
Yes.
But of course, we are charged with knowledge of all the documents and official papers issued by the department. So when this whole thing came up, we dug our files and came across this Department Order 953 that says that prior approval of the Secretary of Justice would be required if the release would be of persons convicted of, not convicted of heinous crimes.
Senate President Tito Soto said he understands if Faeldon had no knowledge about the department order, having been at the Bucor for only less than a year. But he was not as forgiving to the agency's legal head, who has been there for 2 decades, for not advising Faeldon.
Alam nyo, kino-comply ninyo yung 953 before. Bakit pagdating dito kay Sanchez, hindi nyo alam?
When we received the order from the Supreme Court, the decision, sir, immediately executory po yun. Ang nakalagay doon, recompute and release with immediate dispatch if there are no legal basis to hold them. Sir, sinabi po namin yan.
Ha?
Sinabi po namin yung ano
Kanino?
Yan, na kay sir, yan 953 na yan.
Sinabi mo kanino?
Kay General na meron pong ganyan.
But Faeldon said no such information reached him. He also said that it was Santos and his colleagues who insisted that he could not block Sanchez's release because there was no legal basis to do it.
I stand corrected, sir. Hindi ko alam kung sa kanya ko direkta sinabi. O
Speak to the microphone and do not mumble.
Hindi ko po matandaan na kung sa staff niya o
Di mo matandaan, napaka-importante nitong kaso ito, di mo matandaan. You know, you're dangerously skirting with contempt. Evasive ka.
Meanwhile, Santos seemed stunned when Senator Panfilo Lacson suddenly asked him if he is into illegal drugs.
And I'd like to ask Attorney Santos, have you ever used drugs, Attorney? Have you ever used drugs?
No, sir.
For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Bucor officials accused of extorting money in the alleged GCTA for sale scheme deny the allegations. They say they're even willing to do lifestyle checks to prove their innocence. Ria Fernandez returns with this report.
Bureau of Corrections Captain Maria Belinda Bansil denied involvement with the sale of good conduct time allowances. Witness Yolanda Camilon says Bansil, along with Staff Sergeant Ramoncito Roque, charged her 50,000 pesos for the early release of her husband under the GCTA law. She says it was Officer Veronica Buño who followed up on her payment. As proof, Camilon presented at Senate her phone conversation with Buño.
Ay ma'am, ang banggit kasi ni Boss Chito is magtiwala lang kayo sa amin, ma'am, ha? It's official business.
However, Buño says it is not her speaking in a voice recording.
We will subject it to voice recognition. Ngayon, yung telepono, huwag na natin tignan, Mr. Chairman. Dahil sa tagal-tagal ng panahon ng telepono niya, ang laman, dalawa lang. No call logs.
Bansil meanwhile refuted ties with Camilon.
Sir, in good faith. Public servant po kami. Client po namin.
Public servant.
Client po namin siya. Dalaw po siya doon sa minimum security camp. Lumapit po siya sa akin.
Blue Ribbon Committee Chairperson Richard Gordon asked the NBI to retrieve text messages of Bansil. All three Bucor officials identified by Camilon have also agreed to undergo lifestyle checks. Despite threats to his security, Camilon's detained spouse, Godfrey Gamboa, also testified at Senate about the GCTA for sale scheme and how it favors wealthy inmates.
Napapayak po ako dahil sa dami ng mga matatanda doon na hindi po lumalaya, na namamatay na lang.
The upper chamber will continue its probe in GCTA issue on Thursday. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
More convicts have surrendered to authorities as the probe into the so-called GCTA for sale continues. And this time, President Duterte is ramping up his efforts to gather more evidence. Justin Punsalang with the story.
This is the new temporary holding area of the Bureau of Corrections where the inmates freed under the Good Conduct Time Allowance will stay after their surrender. Bucor officials said 98 convicts already surrendered on Monday morning. They comprise less than 10% of more than 1,900 freed convicts of heinous crimes. Bucor already set up assistance desk at penitentiaries nationwide to receive surrenderies. Reports say many of the convicts were released through GCTA for sale inside the new Bilibid prison. Bucor officials say they are already investigating.
On our part, siyempre meron kaming investigation office din, meron kaming internal affairs service office. So ito, gagalaw rin sila. But sabi ko nga, para may impartial treatment sa investigation, kasama natin yung ibang investigating bodies.
On Monday morning, Senator Bongo also visited the minimum security compound inside the Bilibid.
Siguro talagang nagkabayaran.
Masasabing nagkabayaran.
Makikita ko sa takbo ng papeles Makikita ko sa takbo ng papeles saka yung mga gustong lumaya. Makikita mo naman kung mayaman, kung mahirap. Pag mayaman, nawawala dito. Pag pulubi, andyan naman matatanda.
The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission says President Duterte already ordered to probe the GCTA anomaly. Reports say the GCTA unjustly benefits only wealthy convicts.
Mga allegations kasi pwedeng i-take advantage dahil hindi alam ng mga preso. Tapos yun din ang maaaring dahilan na napeperahan dahil sasabihan na pwede na silang lumaya. So sa ganitong halaga, yung pala sa batas pwede naman talaga.
Goss said he will also report about the conditions of the old and sick prisoners in the Bilibid.
Marami pang reports about yung sa pagkain nila, no? May mga reklamo rin sila. Ipaparating ko po ito kay Pangulong Duterte. And then, yung sa hospital, marami po mga matatanda rito na kailangan na po ng dialysis at mga gamot.
For News 5, Justine Punsalang, We Are One News.
Amid the GCTA drama, the Ombudsman has suspended 27 Bucor officials linked to the questionable release of nearly 2,000 heinous crime convicts. Philippine Star reports that the Ombudsman found strong initial evidence that the 27 officials allowed the anomalous release of inmates. Now, the DOJ has been directed to carry out the suspension and submit a proof of compliance within 5 days. Pangmasa reports that some inmates at the maximum security compound in Bilibid are active on social media. During Monday's Senate investigations, Senator Ping Lacson bared screenshots of Facebook posts made by some Bilibid inmates. Lacson, who is a former PNP chief, also reminded the panel that cell phones are the most used contraband inside the prison, proof of which are the posts online. Bucor officials, however, failed to answer what sanctions are there in bringing mobile devices inside Bilibid. And some good news for Metro Manila residents, you will see even lower electricity bill in September. Meralco says overall rates will drop by over 50 centavos per kilowatt hour due to lower generation charges. Now, for households consuming 200 kilowatt hours, this means a cut of 105 pesos in your power bills next month. Business World reports that this marks the 5th consecutive month of electricity rate drop since April, with the total decline now exceeding 1 peso and 50 centavos per kilowatt hour. The Agriculture Department finally confirmed that African swine fever has been causing hog deaths in the country. Despite this, the DA held a brutal fight featuring pork products to show that the pork is still safe to eat. Shaila Francisco will tell us more.
Lilia still has 8 pigs in Kupang Antipolo, despite instructions to call all hogs within a 1-kilometer radius in areas affected by the swine disease. Still, she's unable to sell these pigs.
Mas gugustuhin ko nga yung baboy ko, examinin na nila ngayon habang andyan pa hindi pa nila nakukuha.
Bakit po?
Kasi sabi nga may mga sakit yung baboy. Ay wala naman sakit yung mga baboy ko
While the Agriculture Department is looking into the matter, it has confirmed that it is the African swine fever or ASF that has killed off pigs in 7 areas in Bulacan and Rizal. This comes after 14 out of the 20 pigs' blood samples sent to the UK tested positive for the disease. ASF causes fever, hemorrhage, and loss of appetite among pigs, resulting in death within 3 to 5 days. Humans are not infected by the virus, but they can be carriers of ASF. The DA is now awaiting results from the viral isolation test to determine the strain of the virus.
It is conclusive that it is positive with African swine fever. How virulent that virus we have yet to understand.
The DA suspects the disease spread via swill feeding.
Galing po yun sa mga waste sa mga hotels, sa waste sa mga restaurants.
Around 7,416 hogs have been culled in Rizal and Bulacan, which is less than 1% of the total hogs in the country. While the DA is monitoring incident reports in new areas, the DA says the 7 earlier mentioned have already tested negative for the virus. Still, some hog raisers are worried.
Paano kami makabangon ay wala naman silang binibigay na kung anong tulong. Ayun lang, 3,000. Gano'n lang 3,000? Bayaran mo ng tubig, kuryente, tapos na.
Aside from cash assistance, raisers will be given piglets once the DA confirms it's safe to raise hogs in the affected areas, estimated to be at least a month from now. To allay ASF fears, the DA and Health Department officials led a boodle fight featuring pork dishes.
Hindi po banta at hindi po panganib sa kalusugan pantao, sa kalusugan pampubliko ang ating pong mga karneng baboy, ngunit ibig ko pong gamitin ang pagkakataong ito, bigyan diin na kinakailangan po ang wastong paghahanda, malinis na pamamaraan.
Both the government and the private sector say supply will remain stable even during the bear months. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us again next time for another round of Rush. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.